I'm ecstatic that he's finally being held up accountable for something.
But we're all going to vote for Trump still. How's it going to change my mind?
The voices of a divided country erupting outside a New York courthouse after history is made inside. Tonight, the jury has spoken. Donald Trump is guilty. 34 criminal counts are now 34 convictions.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace.
For the first time, a former U.S. president is also a felon, all as an election looms.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
His reaction tonight, of course, but so much more, because this case isn't only about one man. An entire country must now reckon with a new reality, and we'll take you across it.
Count 6! Count 7!
Full coverage of this breaking story, from the law to the politics, from the courthouse to the White House.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with breaking news. The 45th President of the United States has become the first to be convicted of a crime. One by one, the verdicts were read. Donald Trump guilty of 34 felony counts, a decision that could come with up to 4 years in prison, though the justice presiding over the case has said jail time is not mandatory. And a defiant Donald Trump saying the real verdict will come in November, when the American people will elect their 47th president. We have extensive team coverage on the story tonight, including Alex Panetta on the emotion inside the courthouse as the verdict was read, Katie Simpson on the political fallout. But let's begin with Chris Reyes on how the day unfolded. So, Chris, this verdict came pretty fast, right? It seems that everyone on the scene was caught completely off guard.
Yeah, I mean, it was really like a jolt through this entire media pen where we're standing full of journalists from around the world. Adrienne, we were getting ready to come back tomorrow, but then came that first alert that the verdict was in, and then everyone scrambled to get into position, and we were frozen in place until that jury spoke.
The moment of truth came suddenly. Just as everyone thought they were about to be sent home, the judge instead called all parties back into the courtroom and informed them that at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, the jury had reached a verdict. Soon after, all 12 jurors were called in, and one by one they went through the charges of 34 counts of falsifying business records, all for the purpose of covering up other crimes, a Class E felony that carries a maximum prison sentence of 4 years. Over and over again, the foreperson declared guilty on all counts, taking less than 5 minutes to deliver all of the verdicts. Read from this form, check marks all down one row. From Trump, no reaction.
Trump is guilty!
Outside the courtroom, word traveled quickly, eliciting a scattered response, some cheering on the news.
I'm ecstatic that he's finally being held up accountable for something.
The jury left the courtroom soon after they made history and walked past their former American president without looking at him. Trump then made his now familiar march down the hall outside the courtroom, vowing this isn't over.
We'll keep fighting, we'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell.
Trump has argued this process was rigged since the trial began 5 weeks ago. One of his biggest targets has been Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who indicted Trump more than a year ago. Bragg praised the work of his team and the jury.
I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
So, Chris, as this day comes to a close, another unprecedented one is on the horizon, right?
You know, historic day for sure, Adrienne. I won't forget it. And you could really feel it around here. In fact, I heard some people yelling out the verdict a couple blocks from where we're standing. As for what's next, well, Trump is holding a news conference way up the street tomorrow morning. And then he is back at this courthouse for his sentencing hearing July 11. That is just days before the Republican National Convention, when he is going to be officially nominated by his party as their presidential candidate.
All right, Chris Reyes in New York for us tonight. So after the verdict, Trump's first stop was that pool of cameras just outside the courtroom where he spoke for just over 90 seconds. Here's some of what he said.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
So very few people were actually inside the courtroom today as eyewitnesses, but the CBC's Alex Pineda was there. So Alex, can you tell us, give us a sense of it, right? What did you see? What did you hear?
Yeah, so this past year gets you onto this block around the courthouse, but this one gets you into that room. And today there were 4 reporters from international news organizations who had seats reserved for them in that courthouse. It's what's called the foreign press pool, where basically we share notes with each other, non-American media. And I was one of those 4 people. And at around 4:15 today, I thought my window onto history had closed, that I was not going to see this verdict today, because the judge came into the courthouse and said, into the courtroom and said that he was getting ready to excuse the jury, and left the courtroom, came back a little later than expected, and said he just received news that there was a verdict. There was a gasp, an audible gasp, several people just stunned that this verdict was happening today. It was taken for granted it wasn't happening till tomorrow. A few minutes later, around 5 o'clock, the jury walked back into that courtroom, walking right past Donald Trump, not even looking at him. Not a single one of them cast any eye contact upon him, walked into that box. At 5:03, they started reading the verdict. Within 3 minutes or 4 minutes, Donald Trump had been a convicted felon 34 times. At 5:12, the jury walked back out of that room, not delivering any eye contact toward the defendant. Once again, Trump himself was quiet, impassive throughout the verdict, as he had been warned to be by the judge. The judge had told everyone to sort of maintain their decorum during the verdict. Ultimately, Trump left the courthouse, shook his hand, the hand of his son Eric, quite vigorously as he walked out, and they stepped out into an uncertain political future.
Oh, what an interesting picture you paint there. There are so many questions tonight, Alex, about Trump's presidential campaign, but to be very, very clear, there still is one. He can still run.
Absolutely. He's not even the first person to run for president. If he were to be sentenced to prison, he wouldn't even be the first to do that. Eugene Debs did so in 1920, a socialist candidate. First president ever convicted of a crime. We'll find out in a few weeks what his legal fate holds. But he could definitely run for president. The U.S. Constitution doesn't preclude it. The polls show him doing quite well. We'll see how things change as a result of this case, if at all. One thing we can say with some certainty is that both main candidates are trying to cast this thing as one event in the campaign, not the determinative factor. Joe Biden has got a fundraising email out there saying the American people will decide this election. Trump is delivering a similar message. Well, one thing I can predict is that Biden's supporters, not himself, not his own campaign, but super PACs, are going to put out ads from now till November repeating the words ad nauseum: convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon.
All right, Alex Pineda in New York. Thanks, Alex. So indeed, the Biden campaign was pretty quick to respond to the verdict. In a statement, Communication Director Michael Tyler said, "In New York today, we saw that no one is above the law," but he agreed with Trump himself that the most important verdict is the one coming in November, saying there is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office: at the ballot box. Well, Republican lawmakers, meanwhile, are defending Trump without reservation, including U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson. He called today a shameful day in American history and further evidence that Democrats will stop at nothing to silence dissent and crush their political opponents, vowing that Trump will fight the verdict and win. Well, Katie Simpson is also in New York tonight, right outside that courthouse. So, Katie, there's certainly very little sign that this verdict has changed the Republican position on Trump at all.
Yeah, it's his party, right? And in the past, when Donald Trump has had legal problems, we've seen his base, we've seen the Republican establishment, as well as even some critics within his own party. They have rallied behind him and united behind them, oftentimes repeating and essentially normalizing some of his unfounded claims that the justice system has been weaponized against him. So we are expecting that to happen in the days to come. Now, Donald Trump could in fact see a sympathy boost when it comes to fundraising. Today, his website for donations did crash temporarily, and he's now free to return to the campaign trail, but he will have to be back in court for that first sentencing hearing on July 11th.
So, okay, interesting, Katie, what you just said about the fundraising. I've already had an email that sent selling merchandise on the backs of this. That July 11th date, that's going to run right into the Republican convention where Trump was expected to officially become the GOP nominee. Still expected.
Yeah, that is just a few days before events officially get underway. And it's really going to underscore the fact that the Republican Party is going ahead to nominate a convicted felon to be their presidential nominee. It is quite the position for a party that wants to be seen as tough on law and order. But as Alex pointed out, one thing is there's nothing with the conviction or with whatever the punishment may be that prevents Donald Trump from running and or winning. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says a felon can't hold the White House. And we already know Republicans are working as hard as they can right now to try and send him back to the White House.
Briefly, Katie, I mean, that's where the Republican Party stands on Trump after this. Voters might be another story, though.
Yeah, and specifically swing voters. This is not going to change anything for Trump's base or his critics. Those opinions are already baked in. It's what about those swing state voters, the independents, when it comes to Pennsylvania, when it comes to Georgia, when it comes to Michigan? Is this going to be a red line for them? And will this shape their opinion and shape how they're going to vote in the election in November?
Katie Simpson in a very busy New York. Thank you, Katie. So for critics, Donald Trump always defied accountability. For supporters, he always defied persecution. But this conviction has swept all those assumptions aside. And Alison Northcott shows us, for voters, this verdict has unleashed some powerful emotions.
Trump is guilty!
As soon as the guilty verdict came down, reaction outside the courthouse was fervent and divided.
Guilty on all counts.
Just to see that, a president can be found guilty, a president can be held accountable, I think is an incredible show of democracy.
No, he's innocent. He's an innocent man. The media is not telling the truth, no.
It's a very sad day for America, that's all I'm going to say.
Why do you feel that way?
Because this is political persecution and there's absolutely nothing behind this case.
And for many, Trump's conviction won't sway their conviction or their vote.
I'm not even worried about it. Even if Trump goes to jail, gets out, or gets bail, or whatever, we're all going to vote for Trump still. It's not going to. How's it going to change my mind that he just got in trouble here? Big deal. Big deal.
They're using this judicial system just to penalize him to get him away from running for president again.
Go to jail!
But his detractors say the guilty verdict was a long time coming.
Oh my God. This is wonderful. It's good. It's so good, you guys.
Well, I certainly hope it'll hurt his chances, but I've been wrong about him for 12 years. So why anybody would vote for a felon for the United States president, I cannot imagine.
All the way, lock him up.
Trump's motorcade pulled away from the courthouse, the moment a break with U.S. political history. But whether this verdict changes votes at the ballot box won't be known until November. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Washington.
So Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, handled the payoff of Stormy Daniels, a former loyalist turned Trump foe who was once the prosecution's key witness in this case. Speaking to MSNBC, his reaction to the verdict was simply satisfaction.
It's accountability. It's exactly what America needs right now. We need for accountability to be had by all those that break the law, because as we like to continuously state, no one is above the law. And today's verdict demonstrates that.
Anthony Capozzolo is a former federal prosecutor and former assistant attorney for the Eastern District of New York. He's in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Thank you, Anthony. I suppose lots of questions here, but first one I have is, what are the next steps here when it comes to sentencing?
So the judge did set a schedule for sentencing for both parties to present sentencing memorandum, and that should happen in a few weeks. And then there's a sentencing date, I believe it's in July. And it's possible there could be delays. Trump has been known to try to utilize the legal system to delay things. But but it's very likely that a sentencing will occur before the election, I would expect. And that would be the next step in the process. And then after that, Trump can apply, if the judge were to impose a jail sentence, which is a possibility, Trump is very likely to get bail pending appeal, given the kind of unique nature of the case and and Mr. Trump's standing as a former president. I think it's likely the appellate court would give him bail pending appeal. So my prediction would be very unlikely he would be incarcerated prior to the election.
Well, but how realistic is it that he'd be incarcerated at all? And you know, if not, what does the precedent suggest for sentencing?
So these are not the highest level felonies you can be convicted of in New York State. And there is often a presumption toward a non-incarceratory sentence in such cases. The defendant, Mr. Trump, has engaged in a lot of conduct during the course of the trial and before the trial that the judge could look at. The contempt violations that Judge Merchan has examined already, and some remain for him to make final findings on. Those could play a factor in whether the judge decides that Mr. Trump has exhibited a lack of remorse and may have even engaged in some conduct which the judge deems obstructionist in terms of making comments about witnesses that he thinks could have discouraged witnesses from testifying. Those are aggravating factors that it often lead a judge to believe some jail time is appropriate, even in so-called white-collar offenses like the ones Mr. Trump was convicted of. And many defendants in New York have gone to jail on charges like these in certain circumstances.
I just have about 15 seconds left. Very quickly, as a convicted felon, can he vote?
In Florida, ironically, Democrats got a measure passed in Florida that restored voting rights to most felons. So unless you're convicted of a crime of moral turpitude, like murder or sexual assault, he will remain able to vote in Florida in all elections.
All right, Anthony.
Because he's now a Florida resident.
Okay, Anthony, thanks very much for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So lots of reaction to the verdict here in Canada as well. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly tweeting, "The United States is not only our neighbor, but also our closest friend and ally. Our government has worked successfully with both Republican and Democratic administrations and will continue to do so." We're going to get a lot more reaction to Donald Trump's conviction, but here in Canada, another shocking case, a billionaire businessman charged with multiple counts of sexual assault and sexual exploitation of minors.
I'm grateful to see that Robert Miller will be accused, because that should have been done like years ago.
What we know about the charges, but first. A CBC News investigation into food safety inspections in Alberta daycares.
I don't have faith in the system anymore.
We're back in 2 minutes. We'll get back to our top story in a few minutes, but let's turn to some news here at home. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is facing backlash after he suggested immigrants are responsible for a shooting last week at a Jewish girls' school. Police have not arrested or even named a suspect in Saturday's shooting. In an unrelated announcement, Ford was asked how his government is defending Jewish communities in the wake of anti-Semitic attacks.
I got an idea. Before you plan on moving to Canada, don't come to Canada if you're going to start terrorizing neighborhoods like this. Simple as that. You want to come to Canada, you want to be a resident of Ontario, you get along with everyone.
The provincial opposition has called Ford's comments racist and divisive. Next, to a CBC News exclusive story, Alberta is failing to meet its minimum standards for health inspections at daycares despite a major E. coli outbreak. Terry Reith got his hands on the internal report that spells out the details.
Sarah McDonald is ensuring that anything her son eats at a daycare comes from her own kitchen.
It's traumatizing to have a child poisoned and get E. coli.
Her 4-year-old spent 3 days in hospital last fall, the victim of an E. coli outbreak that struck 11 Calgary daycare centers, all served by one central kitchen.
I don't have faith in the system anymore.
The outbreak sickened hundreds of people, mostly children. Now, an internal report from the province's health authority covering the periods of the outbreak sheds light on the food inspection system in daycares. It was obtained through a Freedom of Information request from CBC News. It shows the province failed to inspect 354 of Alberta's licensed daycares that serve food to children for more than 1 year. And of those inspected in 2023, 44% were found not compliant. Over the 2-year review, inspectors recorded 966 critical violations in the province's 1,700 daycares that were inspected. In some cases, critical issues like food storage and temperatures were not corrected for weeks.
That actually can be a risk to the clients, which is, the clients in daycare center are very young.
Alberta's health minister, Adriana LaGrange, finds the report concerning. She says the inspection system needs teeth.
If someone is a bad actor, then they have to suffer the consequences. And if those consequences are just, a slap on the wrist, that doesn't do anything.
I want to know what is going to change. I want to know what the consequences are for these businesses, because I know that my son has paid a very high price.
But there's still no word on what, if anything, will change. The health minister says she's waiting to see the recommendations from a task force which is looking into last fall's E. coli outbreak in Calgary. It is expected to report by the end of June. The minister says all options are on the table. Terry Reith, CBC News, Edmonton.
New national guidelines out today for breast cancer screening emphasize personal choice. A healthcare task force created by the federal government says screenings should not be routinely offered to people under 50 who are of average risk. But patients should ask for a mammogram starting at age 40 if they want one. Earlier this month, the Canadian Cancer Society called for breast screening to routinely begin at age 40, a target many provinces and territories are moving towards. Now, returning to our top story tonight, this is Trump Tower in New York, where the former president is now the only president ever convicted on felony charges. This is where he will hold a press conference tomorrow morning. We will look back at how we all got here, plus more analysis and insights from David Frum. Stay with us. A Montreal billionaire has been charged with 21 sex-related offenses that allegedly took place over a period of more than 2 decades and involved 10 victims, including minors. 80-year-old Robert Miller says he is innocent. As Brigitte Noel tells us, well, these charges are new. The allegations against him are not.
It's the culmination of a police investigation that has lasted a year and a half.
The Montreal police has just arrested Mr. Robert Miller,
a reclusive billionaire accused of sex crimes against 10 alleged victims between 1994 and 2016.
At the time of the events, some of these victims were minors. A total of 21 counts were authorized by the DPCP against Mr. Miller.
Police have not revealed the identities of the complainants. In 2023, Radio-Canada's Enquête and the Fifth Estate broadcast the stories of 6 women who said a wealthy businessman had paid them for sex acts when they were minors.
Who can you tell? Especially at that age. I wasn't about to go see my mother like, hey mom, I really don't feel well. I slept with an old man for money. Can you help me?
Some women had spoken to police. 15 years ago, Robert Miller was even investigated for similar allegations. The billionaire's private security firm, located within his company's headquarters, had even been raided. No charges were ever laid. One woman who says she was victimized by Miller and asked not to be identified told CBC she was relieved by today's announcement.
I'm grateful to see that Robert Miller will be accused because that should have been done like years ago.
The businessman is also the target of a class action lawsuit, which has not yet been authorized but includes around 50 alleged victims and 3 civil suits claiming nearly $30 million in damages. Robert Miller disputes all of these proceedings and has consistently denied all allegations.
So, Bridget, we know Miller is due in court in early July. In the meantime, what's your sense of what we can expect in this case?
Well, in their press conference today, police did say that this investigation is not over and that there could be more charges. They also encouraged other potential victims to come forward. As for Miller, if he is found guilty, he would face jail time, but we know that he is 80 years old, has advanced Parkinson's disease. He did put out a statement at the end of today saying that the accusations were motivated by financial gain, and he reiterated his innocence.
All right, thank you, Bridget. Bridget Noel in Montreal.
Thank you.
Now, if you're looking for At Issue tonight, no worries, we have you covered. You can watch this week's conversation online on YouTube and cbcnews.ca/thenational. Right now, though, back to tonight's breaking story, the implications of that historic verdict. This is the breakdown.
No, he's innocent. He's an innocent man. It's a disgrace.
That was the moment the crowd outside a New York courtroom heard the verdict. Donald Trump guilty on all counts in his hush money trial. In a moment, a look at how this might affect his campaign.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people, and they know what happened here.
But first, how did the U.S. find itself in such uncharted territory with a convicted felon surging towards its highest office? Anya Zolojowski breaks down the evidence that led to this conviction.
In the prosecutor's own words, his team understood the assignment.
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor, and that's exactly what we did here.
It took just over a month for prosecutors to get that job done, to convict former U.S. President Trump. David Pecker's testimony revealed how it all started. The former media executive says he agreed to catch and kill stories that would damage Trump's presidential run, like his alleged affair with Stormy Daniels. The jury asked to review Pecker's testimony during their deliberations. So what else did the prosecution show the jury?
They reviewed call logs, text messages, and emails. They heard recordings. They saw checks and invoices, bank statements, and calendar appointments.
Prosecutors built a timeline of Trump's hush money scandal, suggesting that Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, paid Daniels $130,000 of his own money to keep her from speaking out. 34 documents were at the core of the case, each accounting for one of the charges. Those documents corroborated the damning testimony delivered by Cohen. And after Trump's defense tried to discredit him as a liar, prosecutors told jurors, don't rely on him only. Instead, follow the paper trail.
And so what the prosecutors did masterfully was to create this firewall around Michael Cohen, a key witness, to show how, yeah, he may have lied in the past, but he's telling the truth now, and here's proof.
In total, prosecution showed that Cohen was paid $420,000. A handwritten note from a former Trump Organization controller breaks down the sum. It includes the hush money, a vendor payment, and a bonus. Repeat invoices show how Cohen emailed the Trump Organization requesting the money every month, even though Cohen wasn't on retainer. Prosecution argued that Trump falsely recorded the payments as legal expenses.
And the defense never really put on an alternative theory to the case that was plausible. And so this verdict was not a surprise.
What did surprise many people today, it took less than 2 days for the jury to reach their decision.
So a fast decision, which will obviously reverberate for a long time to come. Let's talk about this with David Frum, staff writer at The Atlantic. David, you just wrote a piece called Wrong Case, Right Verdict. What do you mean by that?
Of all the many criminal cases against Donald Trump, and the civil ones too, the underlying behavior here is maybe the least consequential of all the bad things he did. He's accused of trying to overthrow an election by violence. He's accused of masterminding a conspiracy to subvert that same election by fraud. He racked up $500 million in damages for his commercial frauds. He racked up $90 million in damages for sexually assaulting a woman and then defaming her. In 2018, he paid $25 million in damages to victims of his Trump University fraud. So compared to those, this is the least, I would say, heavy of all the things against him, but it's the only one that people are going to get a really clear view of before the 2024 election. So it's the right answer, but much of what is important about Donald Trump is going to be postponed, legally at least, until after 2024.
So is the timing of it really the only way in which, to you, this one actually matters?
Well, look, it matters. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He is a resident of Florida. In his own adopted state, he is not able to cast a vote for himself. And the reason he's not able to cast a vote for himself is Florida had a referendum to allow former felons to vote, to reclaim their voting rights. Donald Trump's party, the Republican Party, eviscerated that referendum to say, look, we're going to make it very difficult for felons to vote in Florida despite the will of the people. So in Florida, the rule seems to be it's not okay for voting by felons, but we are encouraging you to vote for a felon. That's going to matter, I think.
So, I mean, obviously, the word history has been used so much today, and I suppose that the closest the United States maybe has ever come was Nixon, but then his party convinced him to resign. But now you have Republicans reacting, saying things like, it's time for Republicans to get busy. When you see things like that, what does that suggest is coming, and what do you make of it?
Well, remember, Donald Trump is here prosecuted for things he did before he became president of the United States. These are not in any way official acts. These are tampering with the campaign process in sleazy and scuzzy ways, but by a person who was then a candidate for president, but not a president. So it's not comparable to other cases we've had before. In Bill Clinton's case, a private lawsuit was allowed to go forward against a president for things he did as president that were outside his office. Richard Nixon faced criminal prosecution and was then pardoned. The case was never brought. So this makes history, but it's in a context where the United States has been arguing for a long time about what is the president subject to, what is he not subject to.
In terms of the reaction, I mean, there's a lot of hyperbole today, right? And in terms of the reaction, when you see a tweet, though, from Republicans that say something like, it's time for Republicans at the local level to get busy, to sort of bring charges against Democrats, in your mind, what worries you about what might be coming?
I don't worry that Republicans are going to succeed in doing this. Look, they spent a lot of time trying to gin up a bogus case against President Biden. It's collapsed. The theory of the people who tweet things like that don't understand what it means to live in a free country. The courts are generally fair, and there are a lot of safeguards. You can't just bring a charge against somebody. You have to go to a grand jury in most states or go through an arraignment process. You have to get judges involved. If you want to bring criminal charges, it is a difficult thing to do. And if you then want to have a trial and bring somebody before a jury, that's a difficult thing to do. So there's a kind of defamation of the United States that Trump defenders have to do. I mean, ironically, I'm a person of the right. I'm a conservative. I spent a lot of my life arguing against critics of the left that American institutions work, they're fair. And now you have, in many cases, former friends of mine saying, oh, any prosecutor can prosecute anybody for anything. No, that's not true. That's a defamation. That's a slur. And when Marco Rubio, who would like to be Donald Trump's vice president, tweets a video trying to equate the legal courts of the United States to those of Castro's Cuba, that's just an insult and intolerable.
I've heard you talk about concerns about democracy a lot. We've had that conversation a lot about the future of democracy in the United States. What is it about this that worries you, or are you today less worried about it?
If Donald Trump somehow returns to the presidency, his top and maybe his only priority is going to be to smash up the legal system. He's got criminal charges in New York and Georgia, now convicted in New York. He's got possible criminal charges in Arizona. He's got federal charges in 2 different jurisdictions. He's got all these civil cases. The only way he can not go bankrupt, the only way he can stay out of prison is to wreck the legal system of the United States, to try to pardon himself, to fire people in the Justice Department, to so politicize it to protect himself. And if he tries that, it's going to be chaos. There are going to be people in the streets. It's going to be just a scene. The United States will not be able to do anything. There won't be any agenda. All we will be doing in a second Trump term is arguing about Donald Trump's attempts to overthrow the law to protect himself.
In terms of how people respond to this, I mean, I appreciate that many people today are saying, everybody take a breath, let's not get hysterical about this, one thing at a time. What would be the best reaction to this moment? When you put on your optimistic hat, what is the best thing that could happen in response to this today?
The best thing that could happen is that the delegates to the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee in July would say, you know what? Person who's been convicted of a felony shouldn't be our party's nominee. So let's have a convention and pick among Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis and others, the people who racked up a lot of votes among delegates, and pick somebody else and pick a non-convicted felon to be our running mate, to be our nominee to run against Joe Biden.
Do you really think that's what's going to happen, though?
You asked me what was the best thing, not the most plausible.
Fair. Okay. David Frum, as always, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So how could this conviction affect Donald Trump's presidential campaign. You've heard a little bit of it there. Will it galvanize or damage his bid to lead the country again? We will have more on that next. Donald Trump there walking out of the courtroom after being convicted of 34 felony charges. But will any of this affect his bid for the presidency? We need some help here. Let's bring in Kelly Jane Torrance, who's with the New York Post, Philip Bump with the Washington Post. They've both been covering this extensively. We've talked a lot over the years. And Kelly, I know you're covering the campaign. We were all watching intently as news of the verdicts came out. Where were you for this moment? What ran through you?
Yeah, I was in the New York Post newsroom right here in Manhattan. And, we were all a little surprised because the judge had said that, he was going to dismiss the jurors at 4:30 p.m. for the day. And it was just very shortly before that they had reached a verdict. So people had already, said, okay, we're done for the day, moving on. What stories are we going to put at the front of the paper, et cetera, et cetera. So when it happened, we were all on alert. And of course, counting down along with all these other reporters, we have a panel of televisions on the side of the room counting down. I will say CNN was really late. They were about 20 counts off what seemed to be every other television station, and waiting. Was there going to be a single not guilty verdict? And of course, as you and your viewers know, Adrienne, he was found guilty on all counts.
And Philip, your reaction, I'm not sure, were you also in the newsroom?
I wasn't. I'm in New York, and the Post obviously is down in Washington. I was at home and watching on Twitter, and my reaction was similar, just sort of amazement that it had come in, and then was obviously struck by the unanimity of it, I guess to say.
So we've been talking for a bit now about how voters might respond. I wouldn't mind pulling up a graphic that we made. This is a poll from about a month ago. Americans were asked, would you vote for Republican candidate Donald Trump or Democratic candidate Joe Biden under the following circumstances? If Trump had been found innocent, we see around 46% there. Trump guilty without imprisonment, 39%. Guilty with, 37%. Interestingly, in all these scenarios, you see a drop for Trump if he's found guilty. But Biden's numbers don't seem to budge. And sure, this was a poll done in April, but it's still slightly telling. Kelly, I'm wondering what you think we can make of that.
Really, Biden is the one who's really got to try to win some voters back, especially getting ones who voted for him in 2020 to show up again. And, whether Donald Trump is convicted or not doesn't really change people's perceptions of President Biden. Now, I've seen, more recent polls, some other polls showing that there isn't a huge difference in whether people take away their support for Trump if he is convicted. So obviously the pollsters will be getting to work first thing this morning if they haven't already started. And in a week or two, we'll see some new polling. But I do think that it's not necessarily going to provide that big drop for Trump that we saw in some earlier polls. As it's gone on, of course, so much has come out in the trial and not come out in the trial since that April poll, Adrienne. So it will be very interesting to see what effect this has. And of course, it's the swing states that where these votes really matter.
And I know you're the one to watch in the swing states because I know that is particularly your area of expertise here. Philip, what's your thought? Again, as Kelly points out, that poll was it's from April 29th, roughly. But I find it interesting that there isn't any movement at all for Biden and just a slight dip for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, the different polls say different things in terms of what that looks like. One of the things we've seen is an interesting dynamic this year is that when you poll people who are more likely to actually vote, you see more support for Biden than you might otherwise. So, there are a lot of conditions that affect those things. I think it is the case that a lot of this is baked in. A lot of the perceptions about what Donald Trump has done and the importance of it are already factored into polling. I don't hold a lot of stock in polls which assess how people are likely to act once this occurs. I actually just this evening went back and looked at polling in the aftermath of the Access Hollywood tape in October of 2016. At that point, mid-October 2016, only 3 weeks before the election, and with this tape coming out of the blue, the 15% of Republicans said that was a deal breaker. They weren't going to vote for Donald Trump. Well, sure enough, 2 weeks later, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. So I think that the trying to impute what is going to happen based on asking people now what they plan to do in November, lots of things can happen between now and November. And a lot of the people who are saying, this makes me a little squishy on Donald Trump are probably going to end up voting for Donald Trump anyway. So I think the short answer is not, oh, this doesn't change things. I think the short answer is we have no idea. This is so unprecedented. This is so unusual. And it is so outside of the norms of what we usually think of as being things that can shake up a political race. It's extremely hard to say with certainty what might happen.
I think we always talk about what affects an American race is the October surprise. We're not even in June yet. So, Kelly, one of the things I appreciate about you is that you stay in pretty close contact with voters. You talk to Republicans all the time, and I'm curious what the interesting emails have been or text messages to you today.
Well, Adrian, I have to say first, I follow a lot of different people from all over the political spectrum on Twitter, and it was very striking to me. You had people seemed either very angry and outraged or very happy and exultant. And I did get some text messages from some of my Republican friends, and some of them made some very good points. One, Dan McCarthy, who's a great writer down here in the U.S., he thinks that, this could be very bad for the country. You had what he considers a bad conviction from a judge who was not, seemed pretty biased. But then you had a bad reaction from Trump himself. The judge is going to be the one sentencing him. And one of the first words out of Donald Trump's mouth after the conviction was calling the judge corrupt. So this is not going to make the judge even more happy with Trump, that's for sure. And if we do see some kind of jail time, it really could tear the country apart in some ways. So, the United States, I think people have thought of it as more polarized than ever since 2016. It could be about to get worse.
So, Philip, when you're considering sort of the temperature of the United States, what are you looking towards in the next few weeks or months? What will be the moments that you're going to try to gauge here?
Well, when we're talking about any sort of tipping point for the United States, obviously Election Day is the main one. I think we're a few hours past the verdict. I think it's very easy in this moment to assume that this is going to have some massive effect, on people's perceptions. I will point out that what we just heard was very much the case that Donald Trump has been making. I don't think it's a particularly valid case, but it is, when we compare this to past moments, we've never had not only a former president who's been convicted of a crime before, we've never had one who has done so much groundwork to establish this as some sort of illegitimate trial and illegitimate finding in the way that Donald Trump has. And so, is there going to be are people over time going to understand that was Trump's rhetoric, that it doesn't necessarily capture the truth? Are people, are the jurors going to come out and are they going to speak to the press and say, actually, this is how we made this decision? And, we are just normal people. And, when you were making these critiques to the people you're criticizing, there are lots of ways in which this can both be reframed. And I think the temperature can settle down. I think it necessarily will settle down. But I think every American is looking warily toward November 5th.
All right, Philip, Kelly Jane, thank you very much. I was going to ask you, Kelly Jane, what's on the front page. I know you're not going to tell me, so we'll talk to you at some point.
Ours is on Twitter, by the way, so feel free to check out the post.
Take care. Next, a final moment of reflection after the Trump verdict. What a range of emotions outside of the courtroom. So obviously, a great deal of tension ahead of the Trump verdict, both inside the courtroom and outside. So here's one more look at the moment onlookers in New York witnessed the verdict.
I don't know what to say. I did not think that this was actually going to happen, and I can't believe it. It's about time he was held accountable for something. I can't believe it. It's amazing.
I feel very sad for America. Because this is the man who's fighting for America.
But I'm not sure with this, the case. But it's still no matter what, I'll support the guy.
Count 60! Count 17!
Oh my God!
This is wonderful. It's good. It's so good, you guys.
But again, just because he's found guilty, it doesn't mean that he's actually going to see the inside of a jail.
I don't think it was easy. I wouldn't say that. I think it's a difficult decision to convict a former president.
Definitely. This story does not end. We're expecting to hear from Donald Trump tomorrow. There will be much more reaction. We'll have live coverage all day long. You can catch that anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Thanks for being with us. Take care.